This is Advanced Teaching Assessments, Lesson Plan 4 through 6. My name is Billy Reed. We begin with an overall view of sections 4, 5, and 6. We'll be speaking about each one of these in detail. The activities that I have planned for this section begin with Introduction and Modeling. I'll begin with my lecture portion of the class. I will define and describe the terms protagonist and antagonist to the students, giving examples from other literary works. Since this will be my first lesson of the year, I will speak to the instructor from their last year's English class, or their lower grade, and determine one of the books that they'd already worked on. That way we have a reference point and we can discuss briefly the main characters of that novel, something they're already familiar with. I will then move into the guided practice. After giving them the general information that we'll be working on, I'll begin a question and answer period with the class to identify the protagonist and antagonist in animal form. We will then break into small groups to identify their assigned character's role within the work and explain how the character develops within the work as the plot progresses. Now, these groups will be small, and I will pre-assign them at this point. Then when the groups are finished, they will report back to the entire classroom. After I do this, I changed it up a little bit from the example. I'm not going to talk about the independent practice now. I'll actually go ahead and close. I'll discuss the students' reports back to the class. We'll make corrections when necessary. We'll invite discussion about each group's report. Then we'll do the independent practice. I'll assign each student to pick either the protagonist or the antagonist. I will give them the choice, and one additional sub-character, one of the smaller characters, and have them complete a one-page essay regarding those characters' development throughout the work. This will be done, taken home to be completed. We'll begin the next day's class by taking up the assignments. I'll review the students' individual essays to determine the students' mastery of the lesson. The reason I've chosen this type of activity is because the instruction and modeling, in order to clearly define a skill the student is expected to master. The guided practice allows the class to ask questions and work together to accomplish the assigned task. The closing ensures the information is reinforced prior to assigning the students an independent practice assignment. This gives them a chance to ask last-minute questions, clear up any confusion they have, things like that. Then the assignment will be later reviewed in a formative assessment to gauge the student's understanding of the learned skill. Section 5, Materials. For this classroom, which is an English class, so there's not a whole lot of additional stuff they'll need other than the text, paper, and ink pen. I'll need the whiteboard and marker to write down examples for the class and things like that. But it's pretty simple. The main thing they need is going to be a copy of the Animal Farm. I actually started to include their mind in this as far as materials they'll need, because that's the main thing they'll be using. Because basically analysis is just learning to clearly understand the material that you're looking at. Why have I chosen these materials? Well, basically they're all necessary to perform the assigned task. The primary resource necessary, like I said, is the copy of Animal Farm. The students will use this resource over multiple classroom periods and develop a clear understanding of the skills necessary to completely analyze the text and identify the key elements assigned for identification. How and when I plan to evaluate the students' learning on the content of this lesson, like I said, every day after we've completed a section, I'll have them do an essay. That way I can look and evaluate the students' learned knowledge on the subject. Right? Why have I chosen to approach for this evaluation? I like the written word. I like the fact that the student can sit there, and if he makes a mistake, he doesn't have to back up and stutter the way you would have to in an oral presentation. They're less likely to have to concentrate on memorizing something and more likely to spend their time really thinking about the text and trying to understand it. So I'm a big fan of actually putting words on paper. Plus, this is empirical evidence that allows me to gauge how much effort the child's putting into it, how much they've researched the material, how much time they've spent formulating their answer and putting it in essay form. So those are my answers to the sections 4 through 6.